Hey everyone, gather around. It's time again for your favorite show, the SMC Journal podcast, where we talk about enterprise IT, software engineering, you name it, we do it. I'm Scott Moore, your host, and I appreciate you joining me today. Right into today's topic, unbreakable internet connectivity on the go wherever you are. Wouldn't that be great to have? Well, guess what? It's possible. I have it, and you can have it too. And we're going to talk about how you can get that for those of you who are extreme users, or maybe you are a first responder, news organization, or some type of job where you have to have internet connectivity all the time, no matter where you're at, and whether that's through mobile, whether that's through Starlink satellite, or whether that's through some other means, you always have to have it available to you. Now, why would I need something like that? Well, I've been traveling the country for about 3 years doing my shows, the Performance Tour, Security Champions, DevOps Driving, etc. When I first started traveling, I would get to hotel rooms and I would need to do a webinar with companies, or I would need to do a live stream. I would need to take video files that I had created and upload them to send them to my editors. Had a lot of problems with that, never knowing if the internet was going to be reliable, or if the hotel was going to have good internet, or if I had good cellular provider. And I only have one cellular provider on my phone that I could use for like a hotspot on my computer. It got frustrating. So I started doing some research and found a company called West Networks out of Gainesville, Florida. They're a PEPLINK provider of PEPLINK products and support for PEPLINK products as well. And the owner, Peter West, when I got in touch with him, he said, yeah, we can fix you up with something. So you may have seen on a previous episode of my show, The Performance Tour, where I was using a PEPLINK Max Transit Duo Pro mobile router in a configuration where I have multiple cellular connections that I could use as sort of like my own Wi-Fi hotspot inside my vehicle or in place of the hotel Wi-Fi wherever I was at. That actually brought up my game quite a bit, I got to say, and I really liked it. They had a custom case for me. It was wonderful. But as things have progressed with my shows, and I'm doing even more, sometimes I'm going with an entourage. Sometimes I am hosting events where I'm providing Wi-Fi connectivity for the people who are participating in the event. I needed something more robust. So I have moved up to an HD4 MBX unit. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I want to show you the custom case and the configuration that was made for me by West Networks. And I got to say, it is working great. But I want to get into some of the details about why I would need something like that, why a company might need something like that, what all you could do with it, just how awesome it really is. And to do that, I'm going to bring on Peter West from West Networks, and we're going to talk about this unit that I have, and then how you can find out how to apply this to your company as well. Let's bring on Pete. Hey, Peter, welcome to the SNC Journal podcast today. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Today, I want to talk about my HD4 from PEPLINK. It's the unit that I got from West Networks that keeps me on the road, keeps my internet unbreakable, and I'm really pleased with it. I think this is probably an extreme box for just one guy running around the country, or maybe not. You tell me. But can you just kind of walk our viewers through this as to what this unit is and what its capabilities are?
It has a long history. We were building out the need for high bandwidth connectivity over old, like the first generation 4G. These are like category 3 4G. And so the idea was, man, if we could take like four category 3 4Gs and combine them together, we're going to make a much better internet. And then being able to combine AT&T and T-Mobile and Verizon together gives even more diversity as well as capability or performance. And so what you have is the HD4 MBX 5G. This is the sort of the latest iteration of this HD4 product line. What makes this really neat is the encapsulation of an entire ecosystem. You have dual Wi-Fi that you can use for LAN or WAN. You have PoE, 8 ports of PoE, so you can power cameras and phones and anything that you want, access points if you're having an event. Um, it's a multi-gig throughput. So it's a 2.5 gigabits of capacity for throughput. It has 500 megabits of bonding. So if you're doing live streaming or events, the ability to push that data through the network reliably. The idea is you have one box to kind of rule them all. It's designed to be a network in a box, plug and play and go. I don't have to think about it. I'm not plugging a whole bunch of USB adapters or a whole bunch of Ethernet cables or having a network switch for PoE. The idea is everything is in one box. And so by doing that, you make it to where you literally have 0 day instantaneous connectivity no matter where you go. And that's really the idea behind it.
Why are there two antennas?
So you're going to have two sets of Wi-Fi on the front, and then 16 5G antennas on the back, one GPS antenna on the back, and then four Wi-Fi antennas on the front.
Right.
Wi-Fi 1 and Wi-Fi 2 can either be independent 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi LAN, or you can configure them as one is a WAN and one is a LAN, giving you dedicated radio for WAN or dedicated radio for LAN. And the reason why this is important, like if you take like a BR2, for example, it has one radio. So if I'm splitting that between WAN and LAN, even though it looks simpler, half my performance is going to the WAN and half of it is going to the LAN. So I'm degrading the performance of my Wi-Fi capacity if it's all on one modem
Mhm.
module. And so by having two dedicated modules, it may seem like it's inefficient, but it's actually saying, hey, you have an entire module dedicated to WAN performance, and you're still reserving an entire module for your LAN broadcast. Or if they're both LAN, that's an entire module dedicated just to 5 gigahertz and an entire module dedicated just to 2.4 gigahertz. Anyways, it adds a lot of performance and reliability.
So what I use it for, multiple things. I travel a lot around the country for the performance tour and the other shows that I do, and I have meetups sometimes, and sometimes I am the provider of Wi-Fi for that meetup. I can do that with this machine. I have the bandwidth capable of dealing with large multimedia files because I'm always recording, you know. 4K videos and I'm uploading them and downloading them and moving around with my editors and stuff. So it's a powerhouse of a box. Now, if I wanted to take this network in a box to an event like what I do, how many people could I support Wi-Fi on?
The MBX is rated for up to 500 people. I would probably stop it around 250 just because of additional devices, network load, performance, things like that. Then I would upgrade to like an SDX or something more powerful that gives you like 2000. It's rated for 2000 users. So if you're going to go big, but this one, if it's just Wi-Fi, like if you have like say you're at an event and you have just a whole bunch of people on Wi-Fi, you know what they're doing. You're not doing any special broadcast or voice or video. 500 people.
One of the things that I did because I'm a goofy performance engineer, the last time that I drove from all the way through to from Florida to Vegas, I'm going through different states, and I wanted to check the connectivity. Like, first of all, I wanted to know of the different mobile providers that I have in there, and I have three different mobile providers that I'm balancing across. Like, who had the strongest signal? How much was I actually getting in terms of a speed test? And I was doing it when I was stationary. I was also doing it, probably a bad idea, as I was mobile as well. But I was basically just pushing the button on a phone that was connected to this. But then I would also disconnect from this, and then I would run a speed test with just my phone, which is an latest version iPhone using Verizon as the network. So this is something where I think some people would think that is an equal test, but it's really not a true apples to apples test. If let's say you have Verizon that's the strongest that's happening right now in the HD4, and you're also on Verizon with your iPhone, if you do a speed test between those two, and you suddenly see that your iPhone is getting a better speed test result than what you have on the HD4, there's a reason for that. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons for that. One would be the generation. So if you're running it like a latest generation iPhone or even like an S24, like a Samsung S24, they have what's called millimeter wave capabilities or higher speed 5G products. So if you're especially if you're in a metropolitan area where you have that 5G high performance, you're gonna see better throughput on a cell phone than you would on like a mobile router solution where they're not running millimeter wave support. Like for example, even with T-Mobile, we can see 800 to 1.3 gigabits per second on a Samsung S24, and sometimes I'll say, hey, take that USB and plug it into your PEPLINK router, right? Get that millimeter wave support. So millimeter wave support is not built into our routers as a decision that we make because of the fact that it's not popular everywhere or it's not capable everywhere. And so we focus primarily on 5G sub 6, in other words, 600 megahertz to 600, I'm sorry, 600 megahertz to 6 gigahertz range. That gives you the best rural capabilities, but you don't receive that super high end top speed that you would get from millimeter wave. So it's a way of balancing a decision based on what's mostly available throughout the country. So number one, if you're running the latest generation, you might be on millimeter wave, and therefore you're going to see much higher throughputs. Now, take that away or even keep that there. One of the biggest things that you have to realize is cellular providers will basically give you extra bursts of bandwidth to get you off the network. So when you're running a speed test or you're streaming, they're going to burst you data to get what you want done so the next person can access data. So if you were to run that speed test every second for 24 hours, you would see that it goes up and down. It's not going to give you that super high throughput all the time. It's going to give it to you in bursts. And so you might be able to run it once or twice or even three times. But if you just sit there and run that speed test every single second for 24 hours, you're going to notice that it's going to do this. It's going to go up and down, and that throughput's going to be variable. And that's what our broadcasters and our business customers see is they go, hey, we go to a site, we run a speed test on our cell phone, we think it's great. You buy a BR1 or a single cellular device, you plug it in, it's great, and then it fails. It's not able to stream for 8 hours. And the reason is they're like, they want to get you on and off the network as quickly as possible. And so with multi-cellular routers, you have this need to be able to stabilize the connection. And so that those really high performance spikes that you might get on your cell phone, you're not going to see on the mobile router. The next thing is cell providers typically will prioritize cellular phones over routers. They want to decrease the amount of usage that you're using. And it's unfortunate. And we can now overcome that a little bit. A user that's streaming on their cell phone is most likely not running business operations. And so they want to get you on and off as quickly as possible. Whereas if a router, they know you're going to be dumping a lot of data. So they lower the priority of that. You're not getting that capacity. The last thing is the difference between accelerated traffic and real time traffic. And this you're going to see on Starlink more than you would with Verizon or T Mobile. The carriers try to, once again, get you on and off the network as quickly as possible. So they're going to accelerate, use TCP acceleration to use CDNs and things like that to push that traffic. When you're bonding, like you are with Speed Fusion, you're doing what's called a real time protocol. Real time protocols can't be accelerated. You can't use magic science behind the scenes to compress and accelerate that traffic as easily. When you're tunneling traffic, whether it's through Speed Fusion or an IPsec VPN or anything else, you have now limited yourself to real time capacity. And this is most visible on Starlink. Starlink, you can do 3, 4, 500 megabits of throughput on an enterprise dish, and you plug it into a VPN, and boom, you're at 105. And the reason is it's not the VPN slowing you down, it's the real time traffic versus the accelerated traffic. And so if you were to take your HD4 and turn off all the speed fusion, turn off all the settings, and just do an internet speed test, you're going to get much closer throughput than if you encapsulate that in speed fusion, because now you're not able to take advantage of acceleration. That's actually what we've learned to be is the real nature of the problem is that they're in order to distribute tens of thousands or millions of customers with data, they use CDNs, and they're basically trying to push that data down with acceleration, compression, and optimization. As soon as you wrap that in a real-time protocol for broadcast streaming, anything that's using real-time media, you no longer can be accelerated. And so now you're at the limits of the real-time protocol.
What this makes me think of though is if you take all of those variables that you just described that are happening at the towers and the providers themselves, and then you take the variables of wherever you're at geographically that's changing quickly over time, say if you're driving, then the amount of traffic that is on there, whether it's physical cars behind you that are also using the same tower, or if it's just the amount of traffic on the network, all of that changes, which means if I do this speed test from point A to point B today, tomorrow it could be totally different because of those other factors that are on both sides, which tells me that whenever you're testing for a mobile application, you have to keep these things in mind. If you don't, your mobile app may not produce very good results.
Amen. And I always tell my customers, especially in the healthcare world, which is my number one vertical, is that is you have to prepare for the worst, not the best. You can't take a speed test and go, okay, I'm good. This will run my business. It won't.
Let's say that I'm in an area, let's say I am at a city where I'm at a hotel where all the cellular signals are terrible. And I think one time I called you, I was in such a situation where every tower was just, it was just really crappy signal everywhere you went. But I have two other options in that case. Or even if I'm at the hotel and I can't even use their Wi Fi because it's terrible as well, I still have another option. Let's talk about that. First is Wi Fi over WAN. I can actually be at a hotel where they have decent internet but the Cellular is bad, I can tap into that. And secondly, if that's not even an option, I can use Starlink to plug into this and use that. So when nothing else would work, and 20 minutes west of Winslow, Arizona would be a perfect spot to do this, that's where Starlink's going to really shine, where everything else is terrible. Can you talk about both of those features?
Yeah. So one of the cool things is most of these public venue Wi-Fi's, one, they throttle you. They'll give you like a 10 by 1 circuit, right? Because they've got a whole bunch of people on the network and they're trying to share bandwidth. And so, because we can support multiple WANs, you can actually combine multiple sources of internet together, even at the hotel level. So, if you have an Ethernet handoff that's giving you a 10 by 10 by 2, and then you've got Wi-Fi that's giving you 10 by 2, and another Wi-Fi that's giving you 10 by 2, we have 30 by 6. That's enough to stream a 1080p stream. You see, so I can
Mhm.
act as multiple people on that hotel network by taking Ethernet, Wi-Fi and bonding those all together. So I can make myself, because I have three sources of internet there, I can combine those together and act like three people on that network, giving me more bandwidth. And then if even I'm giving like half a meg or a meg on those those 5G modems, then now I can give you myself maybe 10 megs of upload, which gives me enough for a really, really decent 1080p stream. And so the idea is by having different sources available to you, we can basically try to make the best out of the worst situation. And then if you're in a really, really bad area where there is nothing, we can combine Starlinks, right? So we, especially with the HD4, has three WANs, and now with the new virtual WAN feature that came out in 8.4, you could actually have up to 10 Starlinks bonded together on your little HD4 router. And so you could set up a little Starlink field with some Starlink minis or Starlink little V4s, nice little standards, or even get the high performance ones, and then bond those together to create a really nice and robust upload stream for your broadcast.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's just amazing what this can do, and that's why I can see first responders, news organizations, and people that need that kind of response and redundancy. What if somebody's looking at this and they go, "Look, I don't need what Scott has. I don't need an HD4, but I would like to have multiple options. I would like to have maybe Starlink and a couple of cellular modem connections as well that are at least from a redundancy standpoint." Is there something that they can get that's not as big as what I have, but would meet their needs as well?
If you don't need PoE, you can drop the router class to a whole different level. So you can get the Soho or the what we call the rugged class of router. So you go to the BR2 Pro 5G. The BR2 Pro 5G is dual 5G, but it has USB Ethernet. So once again, you can plug in your Samsung or your iPhone and take advantage of that, a third 5G. And then it has two Ethernet WANs. So you can plug in Starlink, hotel, or even like a hotspot from something else. And then it has Wi-Fi, LAN, and WAN. So you have two Wi-Fi, but it's all built into one modem. So you can take, for example, the BR2, and then we can synergize. PepLink released a feature called Synergy Mode, where you can take a BR1 mini 5G, synergize that into a BR2. In other words, connect the LAN to the WAN, and then make the BR2 a BR3. So for much less money than an HD4 MBX, you could actually build your own BR4. Take two BR1s, plug it into the two WAN ports, and you'd have effectively the same thing on a lower scale. And I have a video on that. It's called creating a transit quad. So I take two transit duos and basically combine them together to make a quad 4G router. So you can get that four 5G modems by synergizing together. So when you don't need all the features of the MBX, you can combine some of our less expensive products to create a solution that will work for you.
And the footprint size, I mean, is much smaller, and you even have custom cases around some of this stuff that you can provide
We
people,
do.
right?
Yeah, and we even create 3D printed cases for some of like the dual transit quad and things like that, where if making it as easy as possible for you if the MBX is maybe out of your capability. But just like you, Scott, I mean I run the MBX in all of my mobile fleet just because what I do travel all over the country, and the ability to just have it work everywhere is very convenient.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm very, very happy with it, and the fact that I know that if I have any trouble with it, I can call West Networks, and you guys, the support that you guys have is just amazing as well. I want to mention that people can get this stuff off of your site at buypeplink.com, and if they needed to reach out to you, they can get there through westnetworks.com. And can you tell me a little bit about maybe what's going on with West Networks specifically?
Our new hashtag, our new mission is accomplish the mission, right? And with 5G SA and the improvements of 5G, and then the improvements in the increased availability of Starlink, being able to bond Starlink and 5G to create truly robust networks for customers has been, I mean, it's been game changing this year. 2024 has been an amazing adventure in solving even more unique challenges because Starlink has made themselves more readily available. They've made products that are less expensive and easier to obtain. And then 5G has gotten faster and better and lower latency. And 5G SA, which is standalone, which by the way, I just upgraded yours during this webinar to that. Um, the but 5G standalone has gotten so much better that we're able to really offer truly broadband like services where we could never do that before. And it's game changing for me. It was always like, hey, if you can get broadband, get it, then have your 5G or then have your extra backup or your auxiliary internet. Now we're saying, man, if you're in an area like Dallas or San Francisco or even Gainesville, where I'm at, I can offer broadband services over 5G that we've never been able to do before.
Peplink is constantly coming out with additional firmware updates and features, and then they'll do new models whenever there's a need that arises. That's another thing about Peplink. It's evolving and it's getting faster and faster. It seems like.
Yeah, as the chipsets come out, just like your cell phone, as the chipsets come out, Peplink is constantly releasing new chipsets. So we have like the 5GD, the 5GH, the 5GN, and then the next ones are going to come out with even better 5G capabilities. And that last digit is basically the generation, just like your iPhone 15 Pro or your iPhone 14. They're all 5G, but that 15 is going to have a newer 5G modem than the 14, and it's going to give you more access to bands and frequency and performance than you might get on the 14. Same thing with the PepLink. If we every year, if we can release a newer chipset and keep up with the carriers, we're being more compatible, more competitive, and giving you the most performance we can.
Really awesome. As a performance engineer, I'm always learning stuff from you about the mobile side of this because it helps me understand when I'm doing performance testing. You can't just think about an application that's sitting on a network that's pristine, that nothing ever happens to it, where there's no drop packets. You have to think mobile first many times at companies, and that's a whole different mindset. When you understand all these variables, it makes a big difference in the thinking of how you do a test. So thanks for all this insight. Anything else that you want to mention, or how people can get in touch with you if they want to know more about West Networks, or how to get one of these units?
Yeah, buypeplink.com. We've sort of put a lot of effort into that. Peplinkuniversity.com. And we're really trying to get the training and the materials up and running so you can build and set up and manage your own Peplink network. And then the Peplink Tech Summit, which obviously Scott, you've been sort of an OG participant of. I think the first 2 years, and you'll be here for third year hopefully. And and so we have our Peplink Tech Summit where we bring community end users, partners, and Peplink together to share information and stories and make sure we make the best products to solve your mission.
I was actually going to bring up the Tech Summit. I'm excited about being there, and I can actually go there as a certified PCA. I'm a PepLink certified. What is it, administrator? That's what I am. So now I can kind of hold my head a little higher than I have in the past.
I like it. I'm
All right.
excited to have you there too.
Well, great. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll have you back as when we get some more updates about what's going on with PepLink, and we'll definitely put out a couple of shows around the Tech Summit as well. So we're going to see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
As more and more people begin to use mobile devices for pretty much everything, and they're on these networks that are, as we've already heard about, are not necessarily the most reliable, and they have all these variables on both sides, the tower side, the provider side, and the user side. It makes sense to make sure that you have the most robust configuration, especially for mission critical applications. And I understand not as important as probably a first responder who needs multiple cellular providers in order to get, critical messages from an ambulance or a fire truck, or maybe even a news organization that's reporting on the news. But I do have those kind of needs as well. And when you only have those two connections, like I had with my original unit, I got the redundancy and some resilience. But when I wanted to increase performance, that's when I needed that 3 and 4. As Peter says, two connections is really a good one. It's like a 1 point something to make sure that it's always up. But when you get into the 3 and the 4 connections, you start getting into the performance part of this, which is what I really needed at the time and still need. So for those of you like me who do need that, especially here in the US where there's all different types of terrains across all these different regions in the US that are so different from each other, much different than Europe, this is something that you might want to check out. You can find them on the web at buypeplink.com, and here is their website. This is the treat that I have for you. If you go to buypeplink.com and you end up buying something from them, if you will put in my code Perf Tour, you will get an additional discount off of that deal. If you get something, I've got some special 503 blend coffee for you, some stickers, and some other cool things that you're going to get that nobody else gets when they order from them, just because, yeah, I'm just that special. So, what do you think about this? I'd like to know your thoughts about this unit. And is this something that you could use or something like it? Maybe you don't need the HD4, but you need that other unit that Peter was talking about. Give me some feedback on it. I'm real easy to find. You can find me on LinkedIn most of the time, but scan that QR code. It'll take you to a URL, show you where you can connect to me, and you can always send me an email at heyscott@smcjournal.com. Would be wonderful if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel to tell that YouTube algorithm that this is a channel worth watching, and it motivates me to do more videos. Until the next SMC Journal, this is Scott Moore thanking you again for watching. Bye bye.